There are men who don't say I love you, but show it. Men who don't dare confess what they feel, yet their actions speak louder than their words. They linger, they care, they protect, but without labels or declarations. And the question arises, why? Why can someone be deeply in love and not even be aware of it? To answer this, we must move beyond the surface, beyond logic, beyond romantic cliches, and enter the deeper layers of the human psyche. This is where Carl Jung becomes a guiding light. Jung taught that much of our emotional behavior doesn't stem from rational thought. It doesn't always come from the conscious self that plans and speaks and acts deliberately. Rather, it comes from the unconscious, a vast, hidden territory within us where traumas, desires, fears, and ancient archetypes reside. The unconscious mind governs far more than we admit. And when a man falls in love, this inner world often knows it before his conscious mind does, especially if he has been raised to suppress emotions, to prioritize strength over vulnerability, to fear the raw exposure that comes with genuine affection. In that context, the unconscious speaks first, through gestures, contradictions, silences, and strange little actions that seem irrational, but are anything but. This is where love becomes visible in the invisible, where you don't need him to say it, because his body, his habits, his emotional patterns already shout it. The soul speaks before the mouth does. The role of the anima, a Jungian insight. Jung introduced the concept of the anima, the feminine archetype within the male unconscious. It represents intuition, emotion, empathy, the soft, inward-facing aspects that many men are taught to silence. When a man begins to fall in love, especially without realizing it, it's often his anima that awakens first. She becomes the inner bridge that draws him toward emotional connection. And when a woman aligns with this archetypal figure in his psyche, something profound begins to stir. He might not say a word. He might even deny what he feels. But you'll notice it. You'll feel it. He acts differently. He notices more. He becomes awkward or protective or strangely drawn to your presence without understanding why. That's because you have entered his emotional, unconscious. You are no longer just someone he knows. You are someone who lives within the inner narrative his soul is beginning to tell. And when this happens, the signs begin to emerge. 1. He pulls away but can't let you go. One of the first and most confusing signs of unconscious love is emotional ambivalence. A man who is unknowingly in love will often display a contradictory pattern. He pulls away, yet he always comes back. He says he needs space, yet he can't resist texting you. He creates distance, yet watches carefully to see if you miss him. It seems inconsistent, but it's not. This emotional back and forth is not always manipulation. Often it's the expression of an inner war. His unconscious feelings are drawing him toward you. They are warm, magnetic, and genuine. But his rational ego, the part trained to maintain control, pulls in the opposite direction. It tells him to be careful, to not get too close, to not lose himself. The result? Mixed signals. Tenderness followed by coldness. Intimacy followed by withdrawal. You might find yourself frustrated, wondering, is he playing with me? But in many cases, the answer is no. He's just overwhelmed by feelings he hasn't learned how to handle. As Jung wrote, what is not made conscious will manifest in your life as fate. When love isn't recognized, it becomes chaos. It appears in erratic behaviors and mysterious contradictions. But always, if you look closely, the pattern will show. He leaves, but he returns. He silences himself, but eventually reaches out. He resists connection, but grieves the thought of losing you. This is not a man who doesn't care. It's a man who is frightened by how much he does. 2. He protects you, even when you don't ask. Another deep sign of unconscious love is a man's instinct to protect you. This doesn't always look like big gestures or dramatic rescues. Sometimes it's a quiet concern. Texting to see if you got home safely. Offering his jacket. Walking on the side of the street closest to traffic. It may seem unnecessary or even trivial, but it's not. In Jungian psychology, there's an archetype called the protector. It is universal. a symbolic energy present in the collective unconscious. When a man starts to feel love, even if he hasn't named it, this archetype awakens. It doesn't require permission. It simply acts. If you are someone who connects with his anima, then you've stirred something primal and genuine in him. He wants you to be okay. He needs to feel that you are safe, even when there is no visible threat. And the most telling part is this: he doesn't do it out of obligation. He doesn't say, "I should." He just does, automatically, as if his soul decided it, before his mind could analyze it. You may notice that he stays present even when it's inconvenient. He'll shift plans, offer help, notice your discomfort before you even speak it. These aren't random acts. They are signs that you've entered his emotional field that he already values. You more than he can say, but it's essential to distinguish between protection and control. Real love protects without possession. It guards without restricting. If his actions come with jealousy, accusations, or attempts to limit your freedom, that's not unconscious love. That's fear masked as care. Real protection is soft. It's consistent. It honors your autonomy while offering support. And if you notice he keeps showing up for you, watching out for you, not because he has to, but because he wants to, that's a sign that his soul already sees you as someone worth cherishing. 3. He remembers what you forgot. Another revealing clue? His memory. Specifically, the way he remembers things about you that even you've forgotten. Maybe it's how you take your coffee, a phrase you said once in passing, a family member's name, a book you mentioned casually. These details might slip your mind, but not his. Jung taught that the unconscious doesn't only store fear and pain, it also records emotional imprints. What touches us deeply is remembered, effortlessly. And when a man is unknowingly in love, you become an imprint. Not a task, not a to-do, but an emotional fixture in his psyche. He won't remember because he tried. He'll remember because his soul has already given you a place inside him. These signs are not always dramatic. They're often subtle. But if you pay attention, you'll see them. You'll feel them. And most importantly, you'll understand that his soul may already be saying, "I love you," even if his lips haven't caught up yet. As we move deeper into the mystery of unconscious love, the next realm to explore is the body itself. The body doesn't lie. It doesn't ask for permission from the ego or wait for emotional clarity. It simply reacts, honestly, vulnerably, and sometimes embarrassingly. Carl Jung emphasized that unacknowledged feelings don't disappear. They relocate. Often they show up in physical behavior. Nervousness, gestures, sudden changes in tone or posture. These are the body's confessions. When a man is in love and doesn't know it, or cannot yet admit it, his body knows first. It becomes the unwitting translator of his unconscious truth. 4. He gets nervous around you, but doesn't know why. You walk into the room, and suddenly he changes. Maybe it's subtle, a shift in posture, a quick glance, a deeper breath. Maybe it's more obvious. He starts talking too fast, fumbles his words, fidgets with his phone, or can't maintain eye contact. His usual confidence is replaced with an awkward intensity. He's not afraid of you. He's afraid of what you make him feel. His nervousness isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of emotional impact. You are no longer just a person in his environment. You are someone who stirs his deeper layers, and his unconscious is sounding the alarm. Pay attention. This one matters. Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden aspects of the self, feelings, instincts, and desires that have been suppressed or denied. For many men, the ability to feel deep love rests in that shadow, because they've been conditioned to fear vulnerability. They associate emotional openness with danger. So when a woman triggers these feelings, their nervous system doesn't know how to respond. The reaction is real, raw, and often confusing, even to them. If you notice his demeanor shifting only around you, if he behaves differently compared to how he is with others, more alert, more awkward, more intense, he is not pretending. His body is revealing what his mind is not yet ready to admit. Signs to watch for. He fixes his hair, adjusts his clothes, or straightens his posture when he sees you. He becomes more animated or conversely quieter than usual. He avoids your eyes or stares too long. His voice changes, softer, deeper, more careful. He tries to fill silences with meaningless talk, or disappears into them completely. These behaviors aren't manipulation. They're the visible proof that you've already entered his emotional ecosystem. 5. He gets jealous, but won't admit it. Jealousy often gets a bad reputation, and understandably so when it crosses into possessiveness or control. But there's a quieter, subtler form of jealousy that reveals something very different. It's not about ownership, it's about significance. When a man is in love, unconsciously, or consciously, he desires emotional exclusivity. Even if he hasn't declared his feelings, a part of him has already formed a bond with you. So when another man shows interest, when you laugh at someone else's jokes, or when you mention a past relationship, something in him flinches. And the fascinating part? He may not understand why he feels what he feels. He might mask it with sarcasm. He might fall into silence. He might act unusually distant or ask strange questions. But the emotion is there. His unconscious is speaking loud and clear. You matter. I'm afraid to lose you, even if I haven't claimed you. Jung explained that the ego wears a persona, a mask built to protect the self from exposure. The soul, however, has no use for masks. When a man is unconsciously in love, his persona might try to stay composed, logical, or detached, but his emotional truth still leaks through. That's why he reacts before he understands what he's reacting to. You may hear him say things like, "I don't care who you date, it's your life. He's not your type anyway." You always laugh at his jokes like that, but his eyes, his energy, his tone, those tell another story. Jealousy in this context isn't about control. It's about revelation. It reveals attachment, connection, and a desire he hasn't yet named. And if it's expressed subtly and respectfully, it's not something to fear. It's something to understand. How to recognize unspoken jealousy. He becomes distant after you mention another man. He changes the subject when you speak admiringly about someone else. He suddenly pays more attention to you when someone else does. He makes light comments that carry a deeper emotional undertone. He starts trying harder, dressing better, showing up more, without explanation. This is the ego trying to regain control over what the heart has already surrendered to. Understanding the struggle within him. Many men were raised with the belief that strength means detachment, that emotions are burdens, not bridges, that to love is to risk losing identity. So when real love begins to surface, especially love that cannot be controlled, it threatens the persona he has built to survive. He retreats, then returns. He reacts, then regrets. He feels deeply, but denies it intellectually. And yet, his unconscious continues the work. It connects. It remembers. It protects. It reveals moment by moment what the conscious mind still resists. Jung said, "The soul follows a different timeline than the mind. While the mind demands clarity and safety, the soul moves forward, weaving emotional threads that become undeniable over time. And if you learn to see with the eyes of the soul, to observe his actions, his patterns, his emotional rhythms, you will know what his words may never say. In these small behaviors, his nervous energy, his protective instincts, his sudden jealousy, you're witnessing the emergence of a love that is not superficial or strategic. It is raw, reluctant, sacred. It is the love of a man who is still waking up to himself. What you can do. 1. Don't force him to name it. The more pressure he feels to define what he doesn't yet understand, the more his ego will resist. 2. Trust your intuition. If you feel his emotional presence, it's likely because something in his soul has already reached for you. 3. Give him space to become conscious. Let his understanding unfold in time. Real love doesn't need to be rushed. When love is conscious, it speaks in poetry, in promises, in plans. But when love is unconscious, it speaks in moments, in instinct, in memory, especially memory. There is perhaps no clearer window into the soul of a man, unknowingly in love, than what he remembers about you. Not because he's trying, not because he made an effort to impress you, but because he couldn't forget if he tried. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious mind doesn't just suppress trauma or fear, It also preserves what is emotionally significant. The unconscious filters the world not through logic but through meaning. What touches the soul is kept, often without awareness. And this is why men who haven't yet admitted they're in love often remember things you yourself have let go of. You might find yourself caught off guard. Wait, how do you remember that? I forgot I told you that. I didn't even think you were listening. And yet he was. Not actively but deeply. Because once you've touched his unconscious, you are no longer background. You are woven into the emotional landscape. His soul is beginning to map out. 6. He remembers the smallest things. It starts with little details. He recalls how you like your coffee. He brings up a joke you made weeks ago. He references a story you told once in passing. He notices the shift in your tone when you talk about someone who hurt you. He remembers the name of your dog when you were 12, the city you said you wanted to visit, the color of the dress you wore that day when something shifted between you. And here's the truth. He doesn't try to remember. He just does. Why? Because when the soul connects, attention becomes involuntary. What comes from you bypasses the surface layers of thought and lodges itself directly in his emotional memory. Jung spoke of emotional anchors, experiences that leave a psychic imprint, because they stir something within. When you trigger a longing, an admiration, a resonance, or even a familiar pain in a man, you become anchored in his unconscious. That's why you are the thing he recalls without meaning to. Your words, your smile, your stories, they don't float away. They settle into him. This is not ordinary memory. This is emotional imprinting. It is intimate. It is irrational. It is real. Clues to look for. He reminds you of things you said in moments you thought were unimportant. He brings up something you mentioned once, without context, but with accuracy. He notices changes in your mood or appearance that others overlook. He follows up on things you forgot you told him. How's your cousin? Is she feeling better? He seems to know what you need before you articulate it. These aren't rehearsed romantic moves. They're natural reflexes from someone whose inner world already includes you. 7. He notices the unseen. There's more. When a man is unconsciously in love, he often becomes hyper-attuned to your emotional landscape. He may not say, "You seem sad today," but he'll text you unexpectedly, or bring you a small comfort without explanation. He may not compliment you often, but he notices when you change your hairstyle or wear something different. He might not say, "I miss you," but he'll show up at just the moment when your absence has become too loud. It's as if he has a radar tuned to you. And he does. The unconscious, when emotionally activated, sharpens awareness. His senses respond to you differently. You are no longer one of many. You are the focal point of something unexplainable but deeply felt. And while his rational mind may still be processing what this connection means, his emotional body already recognizes your presence as significant. This kind of memory isn't about facts, it's about you, your essence, your energy, your unique emotional fingerprint. He's collecting data, not with intent, but with his heart. Why do you remember that? If you ever ask him this, and he shrugs or smiles and says, "I don't know, I just do," know this: his soul already carries you. And here's where it becomes even more beautiful. 8. He reflects you back to yourself. In Jungian psychology, there's a powerful concept known as projection. We project onto others the traits we have disowned in ourselves, the ones we admire, the ones we lack, the ones we fear. When a man begins to unconsciously fall in love, he often projects onto the woman qualities he wishes he could embody: emotional openness, grace, strength through softness, vulnerability without shame. And in doing so, something profound happens. He begins to reflect back to you the best of yourself. He mirrors your depth, your tenderness, your joy, often without even realizing it. He may quote your words as if they were his own. He may adopt your expressions, your interests, your rhythms, not out of mimicry, but out of resonance. His unconscious is saying, "I see you. You are inside me now." This kind of unconscious love is not transactional. It's transformational. He is not loving you because of what you offer. He is loving you because, through you, something inside him has awakened. Something he didn't know was asleep. And now, that part of him watches you, remembers you, protects you, not because it has to, but because it can't not. 9. He feels familiar without trying to be. Have you ever felt that someone just gets you, even without long conversations or shared history? That's not coincidence. That's emotional mirroring at the soul level. A man who is unknowingly in love often begins to feel like home, even when he's still trying to figure out why he thinks about you when he wakes up. He may not be ready to say it. He may not even be able to define it, but something in him has already chosen you, chosen to see you, remember you, tune into you. That's not intellect. That's instinct. In Jung's words, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And so here you are, perhaps wondering if it's real, if what you sense is true, if the signs are enough. And the answer is yes, because the soul speaks before the lips do. It speaks in memory, in care, in nervous gestures and emotional flashes and sudden appearances. So what should you do? Nothing dramatic, nothing forced. Just listen, watch, trust. Because if he remembers you more than you remember yourself, you are already living inside him. Not in his plans, perhaps. Not in his conversations, but in his emotional unconscious, where the most honest kind of love begins. By now, you've seen how love can live in silence, how it appears in small, unspoken ways, in memory, in protection, in emotional hesitation. But there is still one place left where unconscious love reveals itself most honestly, the body. Words are filtered through social masks, ego defenses, and fear of vulnerability. But the body doesn't ask for permission. It reacts. It tells the truth before the truth is allowed to be spoken. And when a man is in love, even if he's unaware, or in denial, his body begins to confess. Carl Jung wrote that the psyche is not divided into clean, rational compartments. It is layered, interconnected, symbolic. The deeper feelings live in the unconscious and manifest through dreams, slips of the tongue, and yes, through the body. Nervousness, stillness, physical tension, even the angle of a glance. 10. He gets physically uneasy when you're around. It's subtle at first. You might think he's distracted or uncomfortable. But pay attention. Is he only like that with you? He touches his face, crosses and uncrosses his arms, fidgets with his shirt. His voice might shift, suddenly lower or higher. He may over-explain himself, make jokes he doesn't usually make, or contradict his usual calm demeanor. He might seem to go blank at times, as if caught between wanting to say something and not knowing how. That's because he is caught between the part of him that feels safe in logic and the part of him that is already pulled toward you without explanation. This is not fear of you. It's fear of what you represent, emotional truth. And when the soul is trying to make itself known through the body, it's impossible for the man not to change around you. Even if he's usually composed, social, smooth, around you, he's real, raw, slightly disarmed. Because the unconscious doesn't wear polish. It wears truth, signs to watch for. He becomes more serious or more silly than usual. He stands closer than necessary, but not quite close enough to explain it. His gestures are tighter or more exaggerated than normal. He mirrors your movements unconsciously. He looks at you when you're not looking, then looks away when you catch him. He tries to fill the silence, or he disappears into it completely. These signs are not acts. They are symptoms. They're not part of a plan. They're proof that his soul has already moved, even if his ego hasn't followed yet. 11. He can't stay but can't leave either. One of the most emotionally charged and confusing patterns is this. He distances himself, only to come back again. He tells you he needs space, then reaches out. He tries to remain casual, then reacts with unexpected emotion when he feels you slipping away. This is the inner war between love and fear, between the unconscious attachment that's already formed and the conscious resistance to vulnerability. Jung often wrote about individuation, the process of becoming whole, by integrating all parts of the self, the emotional, rational, instinctual, and spiritual. When a man is unknowingly in love, he's being pulled toward individuation, even if it terrifies him. You are the trigger, not because you're pressuring him, but because you've touched a part of him he didn't know was alive. He may act cold one day and warm the next. He may speak with distance, then show up with quiet intensity. He may avoid you, then tell others about you. This emotional push-pull is not strategy. It's a soul in transition. It's a heart arguing with a mind still governed by old defense mechanisms. And if you see the pattern clearly, if every retreat is followed by return, if every silence carries emotional charge, if his eyes still search for you even when his words don't, then know this: his unconscious is already with you. 12. He gets jealous but can't explain why. As mentioned in part 2, jealousy, when not toxic or controlling, is another powerful sign of unconscious love. It is raw proof of emotional investment before the man has allowed himself to fully feel it. The man who hasn't consciously claimed you, but reacts emotionally when you show interest in someone else, is showing you his truth. He may try to hide it with sarcasm or jokes. He might play it off or dismiss his own feelings. But underneath it, there is a part of him that already sees you as his. Not in a possessive way, but in a soul-recognizing way. A recognition that says, you belong in my story, even if I'm still learning how to tell it. And that's the essence of unconscious love. It isn't smooth. It isn't perfect. It's messy, conflicting, erratic, but it's also deeply real. How Jung ties it all together. Jung believed that the soul is always seeking wholeness, and love, especially a love that we don't yet understand, is one of the most powerful forces that pushes us toward that wholeness. When a man falls in love without knowing it, his anima awakens, the emotional, intuitive, and receptive part of his unconscious. Through this inner awakening, he begins to move toward integration, balancing his rational mind with his deeper feeling self. This process is rarely clean. It's a psychological rebirth. The man may resist it. He may get confused, scared, or even behave immaturely. But if you observe, not his words, but his patterns, you'll see that something bigger is happening. Something his soul has already chosen, even if his conscious self is still catching up. So what can you do with this knowledge? 1. Observe, don't chase. The more you pressure his conscious mind to catch up, the more resistance you may trigger. Let his realization unfold. 2. Trust the signs. When unconscious love is present, you'll feel it. You won't need constant affirmation because his presence, his instinctive care, memory, nervousness, and return will say what he can't. 3. Decide with wisdom, not longing. Knowing that he feels something doesn't mean you have to wait forever. Recognize his journey, but honor your own emotional needs too. Because in the end, unconscious love is only the beginning. It is the seed. It carries beauty and potential, but it requires nurturing, growth, and above all, awareness. The man who is unknowingly in love is standing on the threshold of transformation. If he chooses to walk through, to confront his fear, to integrate what he feels, then that love can become conscious, deliberate, whole. Not just something he shows, but something he finally owns. Until then, let his actions speak. Let his soul whisper through his care, his tension, his remembering. Let your intuition be your guide, because very often, the truest "I love you" is already being spoken, just not in words.